So here we are, day 7 of the trip, and we hung out in Fort Benton a little bit this morning, but then we drove up into the mountains, and now we are at Izaac Walton Inn, where you can see it is 80 degrees and still snowing dogwood. So this is in Glacier National Park. Hi.
Hi. Where are we?
Where are we?
Glacier Park.
That's right. And this is day
7?
7, yeah. Yeah.
And it's snowing. Look at that.
It's snowing, yes, it
Get the
is.
snow?
You got cottonwood trees here too.
Big flakes.
Look at the ridge over there. How pretty it is.
It's awfully pretty. So here we are at Izaac Walton Inn, and Mom got us a cabin, number 40, and this is it. Hello, us. See? There's the car right there. And it's cute. And it's neat inside. And it's up the caboose road because there's a couple of caboosei. And over here, there's a pretty mountain. Hey.
Hi.
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 How are you?
Good.
Good. Where are we going?
Boat tour.
Yeah, this is our cabin.
It is our cabin.
Lake McDonald.
Pretty neat.
You could have picnics out there.
Lake
Yeah.
McDonald, where you'll be surrounded with beautiful mountains.
Yeah. It's going to be neat. We'll see you there. Hey.
Hi.
Where are we going?
Boat tour.
On the boat tour on McDonald Lake. And we're late. We're late for a very important date.
Goodbye. We're late.
Yep. And down there is one of those little buses we're going on tomorrow. So, say see you on the boat.
See you on the boat.
Bye. Here we are.
We're gonna get
Getting on the boat. Oh, wow. Look at that. Here we go. On the
Need
boat.
sunscreen.
I know.
Feel bad for them.
I know.
This was not as sophisticated when Linda and I were here. We just kind of pulled up to the lake and there was a boat and we got on.
Oh. Well, here we are on the boat. Das Boot. Well, I'm not sure.
A boat that seated a lot of people on one level.
Yeah?
Yeah, but look at the gates of the mountains down there. Isn't that pretty?
Yep.
How many was it? 2 kids?
We are here at a great time of day because the sun will be dropping.
Driving behind the mountains.
We'll see the various colors
Yeah.
on the hills.
Yeah.
They have the radio.
All right. I'm going to take some pictures. Here we go. We're moving.
This is not the lake that Linda and I were on, she says.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's what she said.
Yeah.
He said, this doesn't look like the same thing. And she said, that's because it's not.
Yeah.
That would explain it.
The one we were on, the mountains were much closer to the sides of the water.
Here we go.
29 has not left our lake since. So you're riding a very historic vessel around this lake. We're going to take a 1-hour cruise about 4 miles down, cut across, and 4 miles back up. But as we cruise across this lake, I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of information about the lake that we are on here. This is glacial formed Lake McDonald. Lake McDonald is the biggest lake in Glacier National Park. It's 10 miles long, is 1.5 miles wide, and is 472 feet deep.
Wow.
So it's the second biggest lake, or second deepest lake, excuse me, in Montana. The deepest lake is outside of Whitefish. It's Tally Lake, and that's a little over 500 feet deep. Well, we almost got Tally Lake. We're catching up. A fur trader to this area was absentmindedly carving his name in trees near Apgar back in the 1800s. And people that came to this area following him thought that he had named this place after him since he had done it so many places. And they started calling this lake Lake McDonald. So Duncan MacDonald, the grand graffiti artist down in Apgar, actually named our lake here. Pretty hard to see, but off the right-hand side of our boat, our starboard side, you may see some cabins in the woods. You may have noticed those earlier. Some of their roof lines we can see just barely over there. That is Kelly's Camp. And Kelly's Camp was settled by Frank Kelly back in the late 1800s. He came up here originally from Minnesota to farm the land, but as you can see, there's no farmlands up behind there. The extremely short growing season, as well as the rocky topsoil that we have up here, it's not very conducive to farming. So Frank Kelly was quite an entrepreneur, so he changed his game plan very quickly and turned his homestead site into a tourist attraction. He built 14 cabins on that site and would bring tourists from Apgar on his own ship that he built called the M Line after his wife. It was a steam-powered boat. He would bring them all the way up 10 miles up this lake to his campsite here, and they would stay there for 2 weeks to up to 2 months. And they would camp and hike and fish among this beautiful lake, and they would go up into what we now know as Glacier National Park and hike around in there and trap and hunt. So those are all privately owned cabins, and you may ask yourself, how do you get a privately owned cabin inside a national park? Well, if you're like Frank Kelly and you came up here in the 1800s and set up your homestead, you were grandfathered in when it became a national park in 1910. So all of those homestead sites are historic land sites. As well, they cannot be sold or bought, so they have to be willed down through your family. So if you're a descendant of Frank Kelly, you get one of those beautiful homes on Lake McDonald, as well as we have many homes up near the head of the lake that have been willed down through the family. The lodge actually sits on an old homestead site as well, so that was sold before the park was established so that it could be put into a national park land. Each and every one of these homestead sites, these privately owned cabins and lodgings among the lakes and Glacier National Park in general, have its own lease with the park, so it's not an overarching lease. They each have their own separate leases. They can't paint their houses purple. We need to keep them all brown, and Forest Service brown is what they call it. One of our truly amazing bird species that we have here in the park, called the mergansers, and those are some endangered duck species. They're actually from the Pacific Northwest, so the Puget Sound, Oregon coast. Those are so rare and so low in numbers that 25% of that species is actually born here in the park every year. So those ducks fly all the way from Oregon and Seattle into our cold inland nesting grounds here. They set up, one of their nesting sites is the Upper McDonald Creek, and they lay their eggs and brew their chicks up in those cold swift currents. And then when those babies get all grown up, they fly back out to Seattle and Portland again and start that cycle all over.
Clouds doesn't get any better.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a really interesting fire mosaic on this ridgeline here. And as we near Long Point, which is our about halfway tour point, you'll see that. So forest fires are categorized in 3 categories. So there's a stage 1 forest fire, which is going to crawl across the forest floor. It's going to eat up the debris. It's going to burn bushes. And then you have a stage 2 forest fire that's going to come in a little bit hotter. It's going to jump up some of those trees, scorch the bark, also burn most of the low-lying shrubs completely. And then you have a stage 3 fire, which is a canopy fire. And that is going to burn from the very top of the tree all the way down to its roots, and it's actually the most devastating. So what we're looking at out on Lot Point is a stage 3 forest fire. And we had a very interesting thing happen as that stage 3 forest fire came in on a very hot, high wind. The weather completely changed. We had a much colder weather system come through, as well as a lot of moisture. And so that jumped all the way from a stage 3 to a stage 1 forest fire. So we have completely burned, dead trees standing right next to completely live, healthy trees.
Huh.
Just to keep everyone safe, all the private residents at the head of the lake, as well as the lodge and Apgar, were evacuated. But we had no loss of life from that fire. Also, no structural damage was caused during that fire as well.
Boy, the people in the cabins must have been freaking out, though.
Yeah.
But as we get up here to Long Point, take a look into those dead standing snags. You'll see our undergrowth is already coming up. It's already above my head, and I'm 6 feet tall, so it's 6 foot up to 10 feet tall already. So we do have new life growing back. We have many species of plants and birds and animals that will only come back after a fire. So we have a lot of wildfires up in our wildflowers that are right up there in that beautiful new forest that's growing up. This is Long Point that we're coming up on. It's one of Glacier National Park's backcountry campsites. So if you come here where it's a little bit busier, all of our campsites are filling up, the lodge is filling up, you want to feel a little bit more adventurous, you can take the 7-mile hike up here to Long Point. You do need a backcountry campsite pass. So anytime you're heading into the backcountry, you need to stop by a backcountry office and get a permit. They're about $5 per person. It's always a great idea to stop by and get information either way. If you're heading out there, you're just trying to plan a trip. That way they have a good count of how many people are in the backcountry, as well as they can give you information on what's going on back there, and kind of make sure you know how to get help if you need or run into anything back in the backcountry. To enjoy her lunch and the beautiful scenery of the Lake McDonald Valley long before the boys made it up there. So you can imagine the boys were much surprised to see her sitting up there waiting for them, so they honored her and named that mountain after her. Right behind, we can see Vought, and Vought has a little bit of snow left on it. It looks like the striations of snow up there. It may look as tall as Stanton, but it's actually much taller. It's 8,500 feet tall. And then right behind Vought, in the little bit of shadow back there, that flat top mountain, that is Mount McPartlin. Mount McPartlin was named after a prospector in this area. He came up here looking for copper and gold and didn't quite find that, but stayed because he couldn't quite get away from the beauty and majesty of this mountain range up here. It is said that he lived up here at the head of the lake, and he was one evening enjoying a fine lady and some fine jug of moonshine, and his boat capsized, and he could not swim, so he actually drowned in our lake here.
Oh.
She survived because she could swim. All the way to the back of the valley, that is the garden wall. So if you go up to the Logan Pass, that is a rect that you will be traversing across. That is our continental divide. So if you're standing up on the very top of the garden wall, you are facing north, so your left shoulder is facing us and your right shoulder is facing East Glacier. If you pour some water off your left shoulder, it'll come down here to the lake. It'll go out to the Flathead Lake. It will join the Columbia River and finally flow out in Astoria, Oregon to the Pacific Ocean. If you stand up there, pour it off your right shoulder, it'll flow down into one of our lakes on that side. It'll flow into the Missouri River, meet up with the Mississippi River, and then flow into the Gulf of Mexico. And we have one of the most unique things. There's only 3 of these in the world, and one of them here in Glacier National Park sits a triple divide. So that actually is up near Triple Divide Pass, conveniently named. And if you pour water in front of you, it will flow north up to the Hudson Bay
so I'm
and up
deleting
into the
messages so I can
Arctic.
take more pictures.
So if we come to the right of the garden wall, that is Mount Cannon with all those avalanche chutes coming down. It has a little bit of snow left in some of those chutes. Mount Cannon was named after a honeymooning couple who came up here in the early 1900s, so 1901. They came up here to honor each other and climb a mountain to name it after each other. So they chose what was usually called Billy Goat Hill at the head of the lake here, hiked up to the top and sat up there and realized that no one would believe them that they had summited this mountain so quickly in one day. So Mrs. Cannon wrote her name and the date in a piece of paper and put that in a bottle, and they hid that among the rocks. And then when they came down to the lodge, they were right. No one believed them that they had made it up there. So they said, go ahead and search for our bottle. We have been up there. And they searched from 1901 till 1985, and they finally found that bottle.
Oh,
and
wow.
so they honored the Cannons and named that finally after them. Now coming to the right again, our big mountain that looks very close to us here is Mount Brown. That was named by Charlie M. Russell. He named that after his hunting party up here at the lodge, his leader of his hunting party. When I look at Mount Brown, I don't see a mountain anymore. I actually see a chief laying on his back looking up at the stars.
I can see
So
that.
if you use a little bit of your imagination, and that tallest spire that we can see, that is his nose.
Sure.
And then if you go to the left, that is his lip. And then farther to the left is his chin. And then even farther is his very
Adam's
prominent
apple.
Adam's apple. So all of that beautiful greenery, that forest that lays to the right of his forehead here is his very large headdress, because he's a very honored chief, and he lays on his back and stares up at the stars and watches time passing by.
Oh, wow.
Can you see it? Yeah. So if you use his eyebrow as a location finder, you will see what looks like a little tiny box up there, and that is a fire lookout. And it's no longer manned. It hasn't been used since 2003 with the Roberts fire, but they do upkeep that fire lookout. If you want to go and check that out, I will warn you, that is one of Glacier National Park's most strenuous day hikes. While these mountains look like you could just run up on top of them, they don't look very big. That Mount Brown hike is 4 miles long, but it is 4,000 feet in elevation gain. So every single mile you gain 1,000 feet. It's basically like crawling up that mountain. I would not suggest it to the faint of heart. Back behind Mount Brown, the next valley over, that's our Sperry Valley over there. Well, we can see that tiny little mountain, looks like here, that is the Little Matterhorn, named after the large Matterhorn in the Swiss-Italian Alps. And then to the right of that, that larger rock we can see, is Mount Edwards. And right behind Mount Edwards, the tanner colored mountain with the V-shaped spires, that is Gunsight Mountain. That was named by George Bird Grinnell because he believed those V's looked like the old iron sight of his gun. And then it's going to emerge behind Snyder Ridge here. But back there, the farthest mountain we can see with a lot of snow left on it, that is Mount Jackson. And it has so much snow left on it because it is one of Glacier National Park's 6 tallest peaks. It's over 10,000 feet tall. And if anyone else could name the 5 remaining peaks over 10,000 feet, I have stickers in the wheelhouse as a prize.
And you can't cheat because we have no cell phone service.
Yeah. Here.
Huh?
Here in the park?
No, in the U.S.
No.
Oh.
as we do make our final approach to the dock, I'll ask that everybody takes a seat after you snap some pictures of the beautiful lodge here. I don't want anybody falling down while we dock. But I thought I'd leave you with one final word about Glacier. One of our boat captains says this, and I've officially stolen it from him now. And it goes like this. Any time spent here in Glacier National Park is not time taken away from your life, but time actually added to it. So I hope that you guys enjoy all of your travels in the park and that you travel safely to wherever your final destination may be, as well as return to us very quickly and very often. We have complimentary postcards in the ticket office if you guys want to write your friends and family and tell them how much fun you had in Glacier, as well as comment cards if you guys want any of those. But on behalf of Glacier Park Boat Company and myself, my name was Amanda again. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful, beautiful day in Glacier, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Oh, you can answer it nicer. Look at the roots of the tree over there.
Yeah. Yikes.